Well, hello and welcome everyone to this online edition of Elpizo Community Connects. We are your therapist group from Elpizo Counseling Services, and we have gathered here this evening to talk about time management. So time management is something that all of us struggle with at some point or another, some more than others. And we are having a bit of a round table tonight to talk about how we manage our time and the challenges that some of us may have, as well as to give some tools and some tricks as to how you guys can maybe better manage your time. So thank you for joining us. And I am Mary from Elpizo Counseling Services, and I will invite my colleagues to introduce themselves as well.
I'm Sue. I'm with Elpizo Counseling Services as well.
I'm Tala, also a therapist with Elpizo Counseling.
I'm Kayla, and I too am a therapist with Elpizo.
And I'm Julie, and I'm also a counselor with Elpizo.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies. So just before we get started into our chat, what is time management? I like to refer to the three Asians when I'm talking about time management: organization, motivation, and prioritization. And so really it's time management is using the amount of time that you have in a day and organizing yourself so that you can get things done, and prioritizing the things that are most important in case you run out of time, and also motivating yourself to get those things done, because sometimes motivation is also can also be a problem if we have a lot of things on the go and we can't seem to get going with it, and we lose time doing things that may not be contributing to our task list. So so that's what we're here to talk about. And why don't I just kick it off with a question for this group. So I will ask, do you feel that you are good at managing your time? If yes, please share what it is that is working for you. And if no, then let us know maybe where you struggle. So I'll open it up to whoever would like to get going.
I'm happy to start. I always thought I was really good at managing my time because, according to what I kind of think time management is, it's just about getting everything done on time in an efficient manner. But I'm starting to realize more that I stress about it. So I get sometimes I feel overwhelmed a bit, and then eventually I end up managing my time. But I think to do it effectively, you kind of alleviate that stress that, for me, usually comes along with it. So that's something that I want to work on. I think it's important to, once you have the tools in place, you kind of don't feel that same stress, and you can still manage to get everything done in time.
Yeah, that's interesting. The stress definitely plays into it, and I think we've all probably had that sensation, or that feeling before, where we sort of we think that it's one thing, and we stress and get it all, try to get it all out there, and then if we actually have different tools, it can really change our perspective and change how we work. So thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, because I would normally say yes, I'm great at it because I do get everything done, but the stuff that's happening on the inside, I don't think that's necessarily as good as, it doesn't make me as efficient as I could be. So
I agree with you, Tala. I know for myself, I process things in my head. So I'll plan it, and I'll just unconsciously, I'll be thinking about it. Okay, so this is what I need to do today, and this is how I need to do it. And I feel that sometimes I over process, or I take too much time spending time trying to plan out my exercises or whatever I have to do, that specific activity or whatever it is for the day, that I don't end up getting everything done. So I think a part of it too, sometimes it can be overthinking, spending too much of your time thinking about what you need to do instead of actually putting it in action and going ahead, and doing what you have to do. So I know for myself, that's a big thing for me. I spend a lot of time overthinking what I need to do with my time. So definitely something I have to work on to get to that place. And you're right, having the right process or the right methods or whatever it is, tips can help to make that, create that balance that you really need.
Thank you, Julian.
Yeah, I'm similar to both of you, where I definitely like to think and plan in my head. I feel that when I'm the most stressed, like when I have a lot on my plate, that's when that part of me kind of takes over with the overthinking as a response to the stress I'm feeling. So that definitely resonates with me. To answer your question, Mary, I would say overall, I'm good at managing my time, except for when it's something I really do not want to do. I will procrastinate on it, which makes sense. It's something I don't want to do. So I push it off. That's not to say I get it done in time, but I don't get it done as efficiently and quickly as I do other things that are more appealing to me.
Well, I'm very glad that you brought that up, Kayla, because we are going to talk a little bit more about that as a group together this evening. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is, yeah, that's always difficult when it's something that you're not really all that interested in getting done, but it has to get done. So thank you. What about you, Sue?
I would have to say that sometimes, sometimes I'm really good at it and other times I'm not. It really depends. When I notice it the most is, say, on a weekend when I don't have kind of specific things scheduled at specific times. If I don't write myself a list, I don't get a lot done. When I write myself a list, I get a ton done. And even if it's a big thing, I break it down into smaller things and give myself breaks in between. That I find that helpful, but yeah, it really fluctuates. So having this conversation is going to be helpful because it just reinforces how important it is and how much less stress we feel when we're organized and have everything ready to go.
Yeah, but I mean, the weekend is for fun. You know, you're not supposed to be working.
There's
That's what I
always,
try to tell myself, but it never works,
yeah, always stuff to do.
right?
I would echo that about the list making. I am a list maker, and that list needs to be on paper with a pen, with a checkbox, so that after, or I get to cross something out, because the satisfaction that comes with that. Plus, you know, like many of you, I can, when I have so much to do, I can start to get a bit overwhelmed, and then I waste time just in that feeling of like everything going spinning in my head, and then I'm not doing anything. So also, when I feel that way, as soon as I make a list, I try to knock off the quick jobs first, just so that I feel like I've gotten some progress, and then I just start tackling one thing at a time, and it really, really helps. So
And
yes.
would you say like your list, when you do your list, or you and Sue, you guys do it like prioritize by importance, or just kind of just make a list and you go through as needed, and whatever doesn't get done, or is it like, you know, this is an order of prioritization, like importance?
When I'm building the list, I'm just writing down whatever's jumping in my head. So I don't write it in order, but then I will look at it and think, okay, well, I better, yeah, I don't necessarily accomplish the list in the order that I write it. I just get it all down on paper.
I end up going back and numbering. So I do prioritize.
Yeah, and I'm like that too, because I feel like, okay, if I don't get certain things done in a day, okay, then at least I know I got the most important things done, or what I feel was important done that day. So that's why I was asking out of curiosity to see if like that's just like maybe something that I just do. But yeah, I just feel like if I get the important stuff done, I'll feel less stressed and feel like, okay, so my day was done, very productive, because I got this, and this out of the way, even though I didn't get everything done.
I'm like that as well. Like Mary, actually, I do categorize a little bit depending, you know, if I have errands outside of the house, then they kind of cluster together and that type of thing. But I will go through and decide what I'm going to do. And even though we're always told to get the big stuff done first because the little stuff will fall in between the cracks, I do the same as you, Mary. I'll do a couple of things just to get myself started, things that are quick and easy. And then I'm more able to tackle the bigger things. But, and if I need to move something over, I make sure that it's something that isn't urgent and I just move it to the next day.
Sounds like you both kind of once you get started, you get momentum, and it kind of motivates you to keep going, Mary and Sue, with how you just kind of cross off some easy ones first.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say that for sure. That's the case for me. Well, that's all great, and that's very interesting. And just having this sort of conversation about, having a lot to do in a short period of time every day, or so it feels like. I'm going to share my screen with everyone and just call up this worksheet that is kind of a fun task, a fun thing to do, just to kind of get a sense of where your time goes. So I'm going to share my computer here with everyone and just call this up. Okay. Can everyone see that? Yeah, okay. So this worksheet is called Where Does the Time Go Worksheet. And it's kind of fun because
How appropriate.
what you get to see here is that you can calculate, and maybe as I talk through it, maybe one of you wants to sort of grab a pen and write this down and just calculate for yourself and then share it with the group. But you get to calculate how much time a day you're spending doing various things. So, this one here is sort of for students, but it can apply, instead of campus, it would be your job or work. But, number of hours of sleep each night times 7. Oh, so this is rather for a week. Number of hours spent grooming each day, like, that varies for everyone. I know for me, that's a long time. It probably is longer than it needs to be, but it is a long time. Number of hours for meals and snacks. And this varies too, depending on whether you're preparing your own food or if you're picking something up quickly. Travel time to and from campus or to and from work, depending on what your day is. Number of hours per week for regular activities. So just things like volunteer work or church or clubs or whatever it is that you have that is built into your week. If you've got children, I mean, that's definitely a part there. Number of hours per day that you run errands. Number of hours of work per week. So whatever job you may have, if it's a part-time job and you're a student, or if it's a full-time job. Number of hours of class per week. If you are a student, what does that look like? Number of hours per week with friends, socializing, going out, watching TV. And then how much time are you spending on the TV or on the computer? And if it's, and if you're working, sometimes you have to do work in the evenings, or if you're a student and you've got to do homework. And sometimes you're spending some time just doing some socializing over the computer with social media. So once you tally all of that up, and then you see that there's 168 hours in a week, minus the hours of activities that you've highlighted, like what's left. And as I said, this was a sheet that was done specifically for students, but so what's left is what you have left to do your studying, or what's left is what you have left to spend with your kids, or however you want to apply it to yourself. It's sort of an interesting exercise because it gives everybody some perspective on, where does the time go? Because so many of these other tasks are daily things that you can't avoid. You got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to work, you got to do all these things. So it's an interesting way to categorize where we spend our time. And it's also just like when you're putting a budget together, if you're seeing that you're spending a lot of time, at the TV or computer, and, maybe that's not where you want to be spending your time. Maybe there's a better way to spend your time, and you can kind of decide from here, well, where do I want to take time away so that I can give it to something else? And this exercise kind of allows you to look at that and see that. So does this resonate with anyone?
Mary, as you're talking, I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, I don't know if I could answer this right now. I think before the pandemic, it would have been much easier for me to answer these questions, but things have been blending into each other since the pandemic. So I don't really know how many hours I spend studying versus working, because I'm back and forth, and I've never really kind of broken it down to this. So I think this is a really good exercise, even to take this information now and keep it in mind for the following week so that I get a better idea. Because I Wouldn't be able to tell you.
Actually very interesting, Sue, that you say that. There's another worksheet, and I haven't got it at the handy to call up here, but I can talk about it a little wee bit. That is something I can share with everyone here, and as well with anybody that's watching this this video. Is a worksheet that it's very simple, and it's something that you can spend 3 or 4 days tracking, sort of like, you know, in chunks of 15 minutes, where you're spending your time. And so every time you pivot from work to studying to something else, you just record it, and then it's sort of color coded if you want, and then you can really see where you're spending all of your time, and it just gives you that visibility, you know. So I can share that with you as well. But that's interesting that you say that things are kind of really morphing together a little bit, because we're at home and we're not necessarily at one thing, you know, consistently for a long period of time.
Yeah, I agree completely with Sue. And I think it would be interesting to kind of keep a log, just to get an idea of, yeah, where does the time go? Like, I have no idea. Before I know it, you know, the sun is setting. So I'm like, what happened? What did I actually get done today? And I feel like every day it's the same. Like, it's just, the time is just flying by and I don't even know how I'm spending my time. So yeah, I think that's a really good exercise, especially now while we're home all the time.
Especially with the time like going, like gets dark so quickly. So like I finish work at 4 o'clock. So by the time I'm done work and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna like either I'm gonna go for a walk or whatever. It's like I feel like there's just like by the time you go outside, it's dark. So it's so hard to like even stay motivated with that. I find like outside to even want to go out there when it's like 4 o'clock, but it feels like it's 8 o'clock. But definitely everything kind of meshes together, I find, because even like with, you know, travel time to and from work, or because most of us work from home, like myself, it's kind of just like, okay, zero. I mean, just going downstairs, but it's so weird because I'm so like before I just like your mentality was like, oh, you just get up every morning, you know, you have this routine, you have to get ready. That hour taking your time grooming usually was like an hour, and now it's like what, 15, 20 minutes just to go downstairs to your computer. That has changed so much. You know, so even like time planning your meals and stuff like that, for me at least, like I feel like before it would be more hours. Now I feel like certain things, because everything is so meshed in together, it's like I feel like I can answer some of these questions like because I guess clumped in one. I don't know, that's just me. It's just Sue had mentioned that, and it's so true, because with COVID, everything is just taken a different turn. So it's like you have such a different outlook on your time and how you're spending it and what you're doing.
Yeah, no, the pandemic has definitely changed all that. And I think to myself, I'm saving 2 hours a day, not driving, or getting myself, wasn't usually driving, sometimes it was walking, but getting myself to the office and back. And when I have to reincorporate that into my life, I don't know where I'm going to find that 2 hours, because that 2 hours has been taken up with other things now, and I don't know how to get it back.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be so weird. Yeah, I'm kind of like you with that too, right? Because like before I used to get up every morning at like 6:30. Now I'm like trying to sleep until 7:30 because I start work at 8. So I'm just like, okay, half an hour is enough for me to like get my act together. But, you know, having to go back to that time change is going to be weird.
Yeah.
I will say on the brighter note, it is doable. I've always have had a blended work situation where some days I work from home and some days I don't, even before the pandemic. It is doable. It takes more planning, right? You have to kind of sit down and actively think about what your day is going to look like more ahead of time, for sure. But overall, I definitely resonate with what everyone's saying in terms of the pandemic kind of blurring days together. I too, Sue, feel that I would right now have a hard time answering this assessment because my days look different day to day. There isn't enough consistency there, except for the things that I intentionally am very mindful of. So I know how much sleep I get each night because I pay attention, because for me, it's really important to be getting enough sleep. I know how much exercise I do a week because, again, I pay attention. It's something I really, really care about. So it's interesting to kind of note that the things that I am really intentional on, I could tell you in a heartbeat, but then the other things just kind of slip by.
That's good. Yeah, well, I like the idea of kind of knowing, because you're prioritizing the things that are really important to you. So you're intentional about those, so those you know, and that's the first step in sort of that prioritization piece. So that's really good. All right, well, if there's anything further on this, otherwise I'll stop sharing my screen and we can start to talk a little bit about what's going on with all of us right now that might be causing our work or our time management challenges. So does anybody want to share what maybe some of the things are that are happening with you right now that are sort of getting in the way of getting it all done? Is there anything in particular that's going on? We just talked about COVID and that how that is having an effect on everyone in time management. So if anybody would like to share, that would be great.
I know for myself, I'm not in lockdown like a lot of areas are. So this doesn't affect me when I'm at home and doing my own kind of errands, but I know when I do go into work, it's a lockdown area, and it takes a lot longer to do things because you pick something up at the store, you've got to wait in line and you have to, distance. And so it definitely is something to be mindful of, how long it's going to take extra. And again, it's the pandemic, but that's just kind of what is going on right now. So it's anticipating I'm going to need an extra 15 minutes for X, that kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually really interesting to bring that up. It's reminiscent of, I heard a story on the news the other day. They were interviewing paramedics who were saying that, they're burning out, and it's not just because of trying to treat and bring in people that are sick with COVID, but all of the protocols around COVID for them is taking up, it's doubling a lot of the time frames that they would have to prep and after they deliver a patient to clean up. And so it's causing so much extra time for them, and that's causing a lot of extra stress. So to your point, like you can't just run out and pick up milk easily anymore. You have to stand in line and get your mask and get your hand sanitizer. And so it does add to everybody's day for sure. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about grocery stores, Mary. Like you just mentioned, standing in line at stores when the pandemic first started. At least my experience, it took a lot longer to get groceries because the stores didn't have the system down yet in terms of staffing and the cashes and everything. So the lines were really long, and kind of just not being able to anticipate that quite clearly at the beginning definitely was challenging, and we still face that in different ways with the pandemic. I feel that's ongoing, and for me as well, even though now I'm fully working from home for the time being, but I find that staring at my computer all day is really draining. That's not something I ever had to do all day. So I find that even though I'm not commuting, I spend more time de-stressing after work. And it doesn't feel like I lost commute time because I need that time to recoup anyway. Whereas before I would be around people and I would kind of get that energy boost that I'm lacking now.
Yeah.
Funny you said that, because that was exactly what I was gonna say. Like,
yeah,
it's hard because I know for myself, like, especially I have an office job, obviously, so like sitting in front of the computer. So when it's like, okay, I'm on my lunch break, I find myself now like needing to take a nap on my lunch break, and I'm just like, oh, there's so much that I need to do, but I can't because I just feel so drained from sitting here. And then like I lay there and I'm just like, an hour goes by, I'm like, oh, I gotta go back. It's just like I feel like it's taken away a lot of that energy and that, like, that push I used to have before to, like, usually on my lunch break, I would go to the gym for the hour. I don't have that anymore. So obviously, like, usually I was working out from home, but I don't know what it is. Like, lately I've just been wanting to take a nap, and I just feel like this is throwing me off. Like, for example, today I actually got a message from my boss and were you able to attend the training today? And I was like, oh my gosh, oh shoot, I forgot. But it wasn't because I didn't like remember. It's just I was so into the computer and working that like time was just going by and I didn't even realize that I had, other stuff that I had to do. And I feel like it has consumed so much of me that like when I'm done work, I need that time. Some days I'm just like, oh, I got to make dinner, but I just need like 10 minutes, and that 10 minutes turn into like an hour. But like, it's definitely changed my ability to be more like better with my time and getting what I need to get done. So like, Kayla, I'm definitely on the same page with you with that. It's hard. It's been harder.
Yep.
What about for you, Tala?
I feel it's kind of like along the same wavelength, but a little bit different because I'm not working. I feel like I've just become more relaxed. Like even in the morning, if my kids are running late to get to the computer for school, it's okay. Like I used to be very like, we have to be on time. I've become so laid back about it. I don't know, a lot of things have changed. So that's one thing that's very different. So I'm just like, well, it's, pandemic. We're in a pandemic. I feel like it's an excuse for everything. But like you guys are talking about the groceries, I haven't been out because I don't want to take my kids out. So I've been ordering. So that takes more planning, I feel, because before if I forgot something, I can just go and grab it. So now I need to really know everything I need and make the order like in time. Sometimes it takes a few days for the order to get in because it's very busy. So that's something that's been a little bit different. Yeah, I don't know. I find it's just everything's different now. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know like what to say. Everything is completely upside down, it feels like. So like what you said, Julian, I think it was like 2 questions ago, but it really like struck a chord with me, is that just like your perspective on time has changed. Just how you think about time is different. It's completely different than it was before. So I feel like since I'm home, I have all this extra time, and so I've become a little bit more laid back and maybe demotivated, one of those Asians, but I feel like I don't have that same motivation to get things done. Because if I don't do it now, I can do it later. Like it won't make a difference. It feels like.
I also feel like, I don't know about you, like the only thing like I've been grateful for with the whole time period is just that like I kind of get to spend more time with my kids. I know like before, when obviously you have a 9 to 5, you get up, get them dressed. Okay, bye. See you guys later. So now I feel like, when I need a little break from the computer, I go upstairs and I'll spend like 10, 15 minutes with them, just that little extra time. It may be like, I feel like less motivated to do other things, but I'm like glad that I'm getting that time to spend with my family. So I guess like that's one thing that has changed that I will say that's a positive for me. Definitely. So.
Yeah, 100%.
That's good. That's good that there are still some silver linings within all of this, and that we can find them and point them out because they're there if we look. So, well, what would any of you say about the Christmas holiday season, or just the holidays? It's not, it might be different for everyone, and what you may or may not celebrate. But what about the holiday season coming up, and how might that affect your time management as well? What do you anticipate in terms of the load?
I can go. Oh, no, go ahead, Kayla, because I keep starting. So carry on.
Okay, I'm happy to share. So typically holidays for me are really strict with time. I have a big family, so it's usually a lot of coordinating different schedules to see everybody. This year with the pandemic, again, we keep bringing up COVID. I could already tell it's going to look so different. Everyone's just shrugging their shoulders about Christmas, like it is what it is, because our cases where we are up, and it doesn't look like in the next few weeks they're going to go down tremendously. So it seems that there's not going to be a lot of planning and kind of go with the flow. But I know typically for me this time, it becomes a lot of juggling and coordinating between people for scheduling and timing.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you with that, but I feel like I'm a little bit excited secretly about it. To be honest, the holidays give me a bit. I love, like, this is my favorite time of year. Um, you know, I find that I love it, but there's so much anxiety around it because, like you, like, I have a big family, and before I was married, I was like, okay, yeah, so like my husband will go to his family and I'll go to my family, and then or maybe I'll go spend a few hours with there, and then I'll leave and go to my family. But now it's like you have to take turns, and it's just like I feel like because of that, we just now have to manage our time. Before, we used to split like Christmas between like both families. Okay, we'll do brunch with this family and then dinner with them. But like now, like this year, I was trying to suggest, okay, well, with COVID now, let's try and do maybe Christmas Eve with one family and then Christmas Day with another family, just trying to manage your time. So it's not too overwhelming and too rushed, and like the anxiety doesn't set in, because like for me, because it's my favorite time of year, I want to take that time to really enjoy it, and like I want the kids to enjoy it and stuff like that. So I find that like it does give me a bit of anxiety. So I'm a little bit happy because then secretly, because this year I'm just like, okay, it's just my household. I don't have to like really like, stress too much, and we'll find time. If we get to see them, we get to see them. If we don't, I'm sure we will, because they'll come and either drop off gifts for the kids or whatever it may be, and we'll just have like whatever it is. If we have a little gathering, then we do. But it'll be kind of nice. It'll be a little bit relaxing to say the least. I don't have to like really stress about that. So I guess for me, that's like my little secret with you guys. But yeah.
Yeah, it's taking some of the pressure off, in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So again,
Absolutely.
another little silver lining there, which is okay.
Absolutely. And I'm the same, Julia. I enjoy this time of year, but then I get really stressed. I'll share that last year for the first time, I didn't celebrate Christmas with my family. I went on a road trip. Well, I was with a family member on the road trip, but it was just us. I was so relaxed the whole time. And I was like, wow, I've never been this relaxed over the holidays, because I didn't have to worry about kind of seeing everyone. It was just us on the road. So I got a taste of that last year. It was nice. I did miss my family, of course, but it was nice in a way. So hopefully, even though in a lot of ways this year the pandemic is causing people to not be together, again, silver lining, hopefully it's there in another way that it's going to be more laid back.
Yeah.
I find as well, in some ways, I guess because shopping is more online, there's a lot less rushing around in really crowded places, which for me is always quite stressful, being in the crowds and people get irritated and that kind of thing. So, and I think a lot of people that have avoided using technology because they were afraid, this has forced them to do it. This has forced them to, if they want to connect with their families and their friends, they've had to learn. And in that way, I think it's a really good thing. I know that there are a lot of people who aren't techie and have challenged themselves because they kind of have to. So I think that's a positive, in a sense, that they've shown themselves that they can, and the convenience of doing some things online is saving time in that way. But going back to what Kayla was saying with the mindfulness, that's so important when we're trying to manage any time of year, really. But I think that mindfulness really does make a difference on how you spend it and how much you stress. So that was a good point, Kayla.
Thank you.
Well, on the flip side, from like you guys, it's a little bit different for me because we don't actually celebrate the holidays, like whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or anything at this time of year. So for me, it doesn't really look much different, to be honest. I'm looking forward to, time with the kids, obviously, just quiet time. And we do try to do like different activities, which we always did at home anyways, like little crafts or, things like related to the holidays, just for the fun of it. So yeah, for me, it's a little bit different, but I feel like, because from friends, I always hear about the stress of it. So I feel like what Julian is saying, it is a bit of a relief, I think, that people don't have to, or like you have an excuse basically to get out of certain commitments you don't normally want to necessarily do.
Well, that's good. Well, hopefully for you, because everything else will quiet down around you, that maybe that'll give you a little bit of extra time at this time of year to catch up on things, or just to relax and take some time for yourself. So hopefully that's
Exactly what I'm hoping for.
good. Excellent. Well, then let's move on to one of the other Asians, prioritization. Love to hear from you guys how you go about prioritizing the long list of things that you have to get done on a regular basis.
I feel for myself, I tend to put others first. So I guess for me, for prioritization, I always like make sure my kids are good. My family, my household is good before then I'm like, okay, then I need to do this for myself. And I'm slowly trying to let go of that. um, because I do feel like I need to put myself first. Like, for example, like if, let's say there was no pandemic and we were going out or whatever, like I'd make sure like the kids are ready first, and then my husband can go and get ready first. And then I'm the last one to get ready. And then I'm like rushing, and he's like, how much longer do you need? And I'm just like, I need some time. But it's just like, you feel like you don't get it because you've put everybody first, and you've kind of like left yourself for last. And then I find I get stressed because then, my husband like, you don't need that time. I'm just like, listen, we're women, okay? We need our time to like, as you said before, you need your time and to get dressed, whether it's like half an hour, you give it to me. But like, I find for me, that's something that I need to work on. I tend to put others' needs before my own. And then like, I'm always last minute trying to rush and get myself together. But I'm slowly learning to work on that. So like, now I'll be like, okay, to my husband, you take care of the kids, and I'm gonna go, like, whether I need to shower, I'll go shower quickly. Then when I come over, I'll take over. And then so like now I'm trying to push myself in there somewhere so I'm not left behind. So I find like, it's been working a lot better. But as I said in the beginning, I felt like I needed them to be good before myself. But now I'm trying to intertwine myself into that, which helps. And it's the same thing for work. Like I'll do what is asked of me, or let's say someone emails me, hey, can you get this done? So I'll stop what I'm doing to do that. But now I'm just like, okay, like what I was doing is also important. So let me do this first. And then I'll move on to that. So I find that I'm more like cognizant of like what I need to do, and when I need to do it. So, and I feel like that helps be more conscious of what's going on around me and not just pushing myself to the side. So definitely something that I'm working on.
That's good to hear. Very good to know that you recognize it and you're working on it. So excellent. Kudos to you.
I just wanted to add that if the people that are watching tonight have been to our past sessions, then we've talked about a couple of them, self-care and setting boundaries. And so that's great, Julian.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I'm the same as Julian. And I find that the past sessions have helped me to kind of put my foot down and kind of give myself more of a priority than I have in the past. And also I find, I'm preparing for today's session, I found something called the 4Ds of time management, which I find very useful. And it's something that I've been doing, which is delete. So anything that, you don't actually need to be doing, just get rid of it completely. Some things like there's a lot of shoulds, or, like you feel things that you need to be doing, but don't actually need to get done. So just get rid of that completely. There's delegate, which is something I've been doing a lot of because, other people are capable. Just this morning, I was telling my kids, you guys, there's a lot more you could be doing around the house. And that's something when I have the free time, I want to really sit down and think about what they're capable of doing at their ages and delegate a lot of, the menial tasks that, I do on a regular basis. And deferring. So there's some things where, like it's kind of, I think a lot of us struggle with like this kind of a perfectionism, like this ideal that we want to kind of achieve, like what our house should look like and, what kind of a mom we should be and that kind of stuff. But there are some things that, they're not that urgent. They could, like I've been doing that with the cleaning, to be honest, because I'm with the kids home all day long. The floors need to be wiped every single day. And I'm like, you know what, nothing's going to happen if I skip a day. So things like that can actually be deferred for another time, and just doing it. So like, you know, you guys are saying sometimes you're not motivated to do the thing, but if I know it needs to be done, I'm just gonna suck it up and get it done, just to get it out of the way. So that's been helping a lot, actually, these 4 little Ds.
That's a great list. I like that. I like the 4 Ds. I got to do more deleting and delegating.
Exactly.
For all of them. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Really good.
Yeah, I really like that as well. Really handy kind of tool to have to refer to. One thing I will add in terms of how to manage time is I rely on phone reminders. I feel very my age as I say this, being one of the younger ones here. Yeah, phone reminders are huge for me. If there's something I know I need to get done, it's not just a reminder. I will like name it in all capital letters. So when it pops up on my phone, like it shouts at me to get it done. Usually does the trick if it's something really important.
It's good. Using our little devices for good.
Absolutely. Or sometimes if I'm afraid I won't hear the reminder, because sometimes I put my phone on silent without realizing, I actually set an alarm, and the alarm always goes off. Doesn't matter if your phone's on silent or not. You can change the title of your alarm. So that's something I do as well if it's something that's very time sensitive, and if I'm just worried I'm going to get caught up in the flow of my day, then it's really helpful.
Yeah, those are really good tips. Actually, I don't do enough of that. So thanks for
I
that.
actually have Alexa set to tell me to go to bed.
Oh my goodness.
Alexa comes on and reminds it's time to go to bed. Get ready for bed.
Oh,
And it's good because, like you said, Kayla, you get wrapped up in something and you don't realize. And it
Yeah.
could just be a television show, but you know, so yeah, why not use those things to our advantage?
mhm.
Really
That's That's really smart. My sleep schedule is something I struggle with at times. I get wrapped up. Lately, it's been online Christmas shopping for people in my life. That next thing I know, it's like 11:30. I was like, what happened to all this time? That's a good tip, Sue. I should start setting myself bedtime reminders.
Yeah, that's setting the alarms and the bedtime reminders, and setting an alarm on my phone because I don't have Alexa to remind me to go to bed is actually what I should start doing. Well, there's a little thing that I'd like to share that really does help with prioritization. So I'm going to share my screen again with everyone here, and we'll get rid of this guy. And oh, where did it go? Maybe it's behind here. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to try and do this so we can all see it a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so this is a prioritization quadrant, and it just helps us bucket all the things that we have on our plate, on our to-do list, and putting each one into its respective category. So the first category is that it's important and it's urgent. So it's a task that it's very important that it get done for whatever reason, and it's very timely, it needs to be done now. Number 2 is it's important, but it's not urgent. So you want to get it done, but it doesn't have to be done right now. So to Tala's point, that you can defer. Number 3 is not important, but it's urgent. So very timely, but if I don't get it done, not the end of the world because it's not that important. And then number 4 is not important and it's not urgent. For me, that's the delete list.
I was going to say delete.
Delete, right? So I love your list because the 4 Ds, we can really, you know, we can look at this and see what categories they match up to. But so when you're looking at what it is that you have to get done, let's say you're in school and you have an important assignment and it's due tomorrow and it's worth 40% of your grade. Well, that's the number 1 quadrant. That's important and it's urgent, and I better just make that one my number 1 priority and set everything else aside. Something that's important but not urgent is, you know, it's important that you spend a day with your sister. You guys haven't spent enough time together lately. You'd love to catch up. You're going to want to spend a day with her. It's very important that you spend some time together, but it's not urgent. If that doesn't happen for another week, that's okay. So you can defer that one.
Mary,
Yeah.
can I make a point that for your assignment example, I love that absolutely. If you're in school and you have an assignment due tomorrow, important and urgent, but if you started that assignment a week ago, it would have been in quadrant number 2. And then the day before the assignment is due, it may be important and urgent, but if you already got most of it done, you're going to get it done a lot quicker.
That's a very good point. So yes, and that might play into the next topic we want to talk about, which is motivation. And so if you have a bit of time and start working on those things that may not be urgent, but they're important, to really make sure that you're working ahead on that. Yeah, it's a very good point. So, and then, you know, not important, but urgent, that's stuff you can decide to do or not do. You know, you don't, those can easily fall into the delete bucket if you're time starved. So I just find that this is just a really good way, and especially if we are writing our to-do lists like Sue and I are prone to do, and you want to figure out what you can cross off or what needs to get a number 1, 2, 3 against it. This helps a lot just to think of it in these terms. So just thought that would share that as an easy way to help you prioritize.
I have to admit something about the list making to you guys, that if I do something that's not on the list, I write it on the list and I cross it off.
Why not? You should recognize your accomplishments. That's great.
It feels good. It's like, oh, I forgot to write that down. I'm going to put it down and cross it off.
I have done that so many times I can't even tell you. That is
okay. So I'm not that unusual.
You're not alone. Yeah, you need the satisfaction.
Right. It helps with motivation, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so this is something too. We'll also share this little. We'll share this as part of the group along with the video for anybody that wants to access it. But for now, I'll stop sharing, and let's just touch on the sort of the final Asian, which is motivation. And you know, how do you keep yourself motivated, especially with something that you don't enjoy doing? So Kayla talked about it earlier that, you know, she can procrastinate like the best of us when it's something that she doesn't really want to do. So how do we motivate ourselves and not procrastinate especially on those tough tasks, the uninteresting tasks?
Well, I'll find something that's really helpful, especially for big tasks, is to break them down into smaller steps. So I feel like, you know, once you accomplish one step, that helps with the motivation, like, and it makes it seem more achievable as well. So I find that really great. That's very helpful for me especially when something just seems so, you know, daunting. That helps.
So on your to-do list, instead of having one big task, you might break it into a whole bunch of little ones, and then you can cross it off as you go. And
exactly, I do little arrows. Like I have a way that I do it, so it has, you know, like it's big heading, and then it has like little arrows of the smaller things to do. So yeah, that helps me.
Yeah, it's like getting that momentum of having accomplished even parts of it, right? Yeah.
And it makes it more approachable, right? It makes it feel like you're climbing little hills instead of climbing like a giant mountain, which is important to be able to get started, that it feels doable.
Very well said. Yeah.
Kayla, I was going to, I agree with you 100%, because I find that the things that I do tend to procrastinate about are things that I feel anxious about, that almost, you know, say it's a big paper, it's just too much, it's too overwhelming. But if I break it into those bits, okay, well, right now I'm just going to work on the headings. And it takes that pressure away, that anxiety away. And then once you get started, you get going. So to both of you, Tala and Kayla, I can really relate to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for me, I procrastinate when procrastination for me mostly is when I'm tired. I find like if like I'm having like a rough day or I wake up just not feeling it, I find that's when I tend to procrastinate on the tasks that I need to do, whether it's just my everyday life or work. This week I had one of those days where I woke up and I'm just like, I honestly don't feel like working. And I was just sitting at my desk and I was doing everything that I'm not supposed to be doing. I'm like there shopping and doing everything that wasn't supposed to be done just because I just woke up just not feeling it. And I feel like your daily motivation, your self-motivation for like the way you wake up and how you're feeling does impact, you know, how productive your day is going to be and how much work you can get done. You know, then there's some mornings where I wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. And I'll be up from like 7 o'clock. I get my workout done. I prep, you know, breakfast for my kids and I'm ready to go. As I said, like I do feel like it does varies for me based on the morning or the day that I'm having, in regards to like how much I push myself and how much I choose not to do. So that's just for me, at least.
That's good.
Do you find though, Julian, that if there are things that you're struggling with on one day, if you do work on them, it takes you, like, I'll give you an example. If I'm just not in a good place to do case notes, for example, and I do them, it takes me twice as long. Whereas if I wait until the next day and I am in the zone, it takes half the time. So sometimes I think it's good to be able to, if you're able to, is to allow yourself that. If you're not feeling it that day, then okay, I'll do something I am in the zone for, and hopefully I'm in a better space.
And I definitely do that. Like some days I'm just like, I'll log on to something, like as you said, for example, case, and I'm like, yeah, today's not the day. And I'll just go do something else that I know I can get done. And then I'll try back another day or the next day. And I'm like, okay, I can get this done today. So yeah, mixing it up, I definitely agree, does make a difference. So like, you know, if you're just, it's not a day for you to do something, then try and do something else. And maybe you'll find motivation there, or like, you know, push yourself to get through that task instead of that one that you really didn't want to do that day. So yeah, I definitely agree with that, Sue.
And further to that too, I know that I one time did an exercise to determine your circadian rhythm. And so everybody's different, but you know, when it comes to working out, my optimal time of day is 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, believe it or not. Like that's when I get the best workout. Probably more like 4 o'clock after the 3 p.m. slump. But I'm actually a morning person. So when it comes to having to focus on writing something or doing case notes, as you mentioned, Sue, if I have to do them post 9 p.m., forget it. My brain is fried for the day. But if I wait until I can get up at 6 a.m. and do them and be fresh and get them done in no time. So I know my own circadian rhythm, but everyone's different. Some people, they light up at night and they're terrible morning people. And so for them to try to do those tasks in the morning isn't great. So it's also understanding you and when you're freshest and when your brain works optimally, to sort of structure your day and structure your tasks accordingly as well. So you can Google it online to sort of understand your circadian rhythm, and there's little tests you can do, and it'll take little quizzes and it'll tell you exactly where you fall and when it's best to do things. So
it's interesting that you said that though, Mary, because I'm definitely, like you said that, like I'm definitely a morning person. Like I get the most done like as soon as I wake up in the morning. If I go bam, 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 and I get it done, I'm like, oh, sweet. But then I find like my energy and my like motivation starts to whittle as it comes closer to like the end of the day. And I'm just like, oh man, this is it for me. And it's weird because for me, that has flipped, because when I was in school, when I was a student, all those nights, you know, like I was a night girl. I could stay up all night and study and get all my work done and stuff. And then I found that like as I got older, my life has changed. Like I'm more like a morning person. I can get so much done in the morning, and then at night I'm just like, I need to go to my bed. I don't know if it's with age, you just get older, you just want to go to your bed and you're tired. But yeah, definitely for me it's flip.
Yeah, I'm similar, but I still have friends who I have a hard time getting together with them in the evenings, because when I'm starting to wind down and say, okay, I'm going to go, is when they just start talking, and that's when they go. And then I'm stuck there and I'm cross-eyed, and they're just still night people, and they can sleep until 11, and that's not me. So it's funny. I flipped as well, but not everyone flips. So
yeah, my husband's definitely a night person. So some
really?
nights he's
Same here. Oh yeah.
Go to bed. I'm like, yeah, you can stay up though and watch TV. Good night. Like I can't hang. I need to go sleep.
I think that that plays into time management as well, knowing when to pump the brakes and stop pushing yourself. Because I think, well, maybe not for everyone, but there comes a point where if you're mentally not present and being productive, but you keep pushing yourself instead of resting, you'll end up just feeling more depleted than if you just took that time to rest.
Yeah. And
Very good
So it's
point.
important.
and it takes you twice as long to do something, which also doesn't feel
Exactly.
good, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to share my screen again for a quick moment here. Hold on a second. I just want to share a quote that I love about motivation. I don't know if we can, it's getting cut off a little bit, but I'll just read it. So it's a quote from Mark Twain, but if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. I love this quote because it speaks to procrastination and motivation and just saying, and I think we've all had this feeling like, Sue, you were saying those projects that cause you anxiety are the ones that you procrastinate on. And then all that happens is you just spend more time feeling anxious than you need to. And if you had to just found that motivation to get them done, you would have avoided all that anxiousness and having that just in the weighing heavily on your mind that you have to get it done, right? So it's just a great quote because you do it and then you can forget about it, and it's really nice. It's so nice to have that feeling where you can now move on to something that you want to do. So does that resonate with anyone here? Yeah. Lots of nods. Yeah. We've all been there.
Definitely.
So one last little thing that we can sort of do that is fun that I'll see if I can call up for us is, oops, that's not what I wanted to share. Hold on. Share the desktop. Okay, I'm going to escape out of that. Oops. Okay, close that.
Actually, everybody, speaking of time management, I do have another Zoom call coming up shortly. So I am going to hop off as you guys discuss the last couple of things here. But it was very nice chatting with you all. And I hope that you all have a lovely evening.
Well, thank you for joining us, Kale, and thank you for everything that you've contributed. And yes, absolutely, in the spirit of time management,
Prioritization.
Prioritization. Go off and get your next one done, and we will see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Excellent. Okay, so this is a procrastination test. So I'm going to open it, and let's see if we can take it quickly together and just see what it tells us. It doesn't take very much time, so we can do this. So I'll click on, unless each of you wants to open your own, but I can just, I'll answer for me, or do one of you want to be the guinea pig here? No.
Go ahead.
No.
Who knows? We might have similar answers.
Okay. All right. Which of the following statements best describes your attitude to deadlines? I like having a good time. I like having a good time reserved in case something goes wrong. I like the pressure of an oncoming deadline. Still need to have solid time reserve. I work best when I know there's a deadline coming soon. I have the utmost disrespect for deadlines, so I barely finish anything on time. I love the feeling of racing against the clock. Oh God. I like having a good time reserve in case something goes wrong. That's definitely me.
I love feeling of racing against the clock.
Oh, do you?
That's kind of me. Yeah. I find like when I'm working under pressure, I get like more done.
Yeah. I feel deadlines, and it certainly motivates me to get it done, but I don't like getting right up to the deadline. That just causes me anxiety for sure. Okay, you have a 10-page report due in a month. When do you start working on it? Not immediately. 3 weeks before it's due, likely. Yeah, I'd say 3 weeks before it's due.
Yeah, I'm more like 1 week before or a couple days before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're riding the deadlines.
I would think too, it would depend on how much else you have going on at the same time.
And that too.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I have to get it started so that I can start thinking about it over that time. I may not do much, but if I, at least I'm seeding ideas.
3 weeks, man, that's a long time.
Oh yeah, no, I might put it down for a while, but I like to let it ruminate and, you know. When I am at work or studying, I find myself daydreaming. Most of the time, often, sometimes, rarely, almost never.
Sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, especially if there's a good view out the window. It is Wednesday and the deadline for a rather important assignment is Friday, but you're just not in the zone. What do you do? I figure that I'm just not going to get it in the groove and try again tomorrow. I force myself to start working and do what I have to do. I wait until I find myself in the mood. I spend a good amount of time on preparations, getting motivated, planning, making lists, developing strategy, sharpening pencils. I break it up into smaller steps and start working.
I do break it up for me. Like if it's a humongous assignment, I would just like, maybe, okay, so let me just break it up, intro, whatever. I'll try and like maybe get some research done tonight. If I'm like, my mind is not functioning to write, I will break it up and do like the prep work. And then the next day I'll just like try it again.
I find that too, like even if it means just like printing off some materials and having it like just doing some research that way, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely me also. Just so that I feel like I've done something. Okay, when I have something pressing to do that isn't really appealing, like cleaning my room, organizing CDs, doing my taxes, I typically find something else more interesting to work on, immediately start working on that particular task, start working on it, but drag it out with other distractions. Start working on it for a little while, but move on to something else if I get bored. I would say I start working on it and drag it out with other distractions. So like I'm doing it, but then I'm checking Facebook and I'm doing a few other things to fill some time. All right, next, I think this is just the 2 pages and then it's done. Yeah, so it's not that long. Okay. A professor or superior accuses you of not putting enough effort into a project. Not only was there nothing constructive about his or her criticism, but it was said that in front of 3 other people. The next time you're given an assignment, how do you react? I start the assignment immediately so I have time to make it absolutely perfect. I hold off for a little while, but figure that it's my own best interest to complete the assignment. I wait until the deadline is right on top of me before I complete it. I resolve to hand it in late. I absolutely refuse to give this person the satisfaction of my work and don't complete the assignment at all. I'm definitely starting the assignment right away and having the time to make it absolutely perfect. Yeah, I don't do well with negative feedback or criticism, and then I would strive to do better for sure. Anyone else?
I think I'd do the same as you.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate when you get criticism that is not constructive.
Yeah, exactly.
I hold off. For me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I need to take the time to kind of like just think about what was said and stuff. Like kind of just think over his criticism, and then I'll just take the time to then, okay, this is where I'll focus more on or whatever. Let's say he's like, you didn't provide enough information over here or whatever, then I would just like take the time to review that before I actually jump in and start.
That's good too. I mean, that's a good way to sort of allow yourself to process it, right?
Yeah. I need to, like, I'm a processor. Like, I need to process things before I do it. So, like, especially if it's like criticism, it's like, okay, I'm not going to hold on to this. Like, it was said, it was, I need to find a way to work through it and how to make my work better kind of deal.
Whereas for me, that nasty feeling that I would have in the pit of my stomach from having received the criticism would, even if it wasn't fair, it would just make me, it would give me, it would be an unfair motivator to make me just jump in and do it right away. I wouldn't, I would probably benefit from processing, but that's not what I would likely do, unfortunately. Okay, I can accurately estimate how long a task will take me to complete. Sometimes. How clean How clean do you keep your living quarters? Well, that's a bit personal. I clean up after myself as I go. I clean up every couple of days. That's probably more likely me. Every couple of days. I don't like staring at things too long, but I'm not great at putting things away right away.
I have to admit that there have been times where I clean up only when someone's coming over.
Oh, yeah, that happens too, for sure.
Which in the COVID situation isn't very good because nobody visits.
I know. The cat doesn't, the cat doesn't criticize. They don't care. But yeah, I've been in that similar situation. You're over at a friend's house when you spot a magazine featuring psychological tests and quizzes. You are dying to learn about yourself, but it's an old issue and the magazine is no longer available. Your friend offers to lend it to you, but makes it clear that she wants it back. You bring it home and take all the quizzes. When do you return the magazine? Next time I see her, I arrange to return it to her immediately. I return it to her after she reminds me once. I return it to her after she reminds me several times. I never return it. I think I'm pretty good. I mean, it's a question of remembering, but if I remember, for sure, I return to her the next time.
I hang things on the doorway so that I don't forget them.
Yeah.
I do that too, Sue. I do that too.
Yeah. Or right in front of the door so I trip over it.
Leave them somewhere so you're not going to forget. Typically, I pay my bills as soon as they arrive, a few days after they arrive, a few days before the deadline. Usually it's just before the deadline. I don't like to give them my money any sooner than I have to.
All right. You want it to look pretty before you have to give it away.
I think they're making money. They're making interest off my money. They're going to get it at the last minute. All right, score my test. Let's see how I've done. I have a slight tendency to procrastinate. So that's not too bad. 33. Overall results are 33 out of 100. So that's not too bad. I can live with that. I'm not a big procrastinator. All right. So I will stop sharing that, but that quiz will be available for anybody that wants to try it who's watching this video as well. So it's a good way to get some insights about yourself.
Do you mind if I share just a couple of tips that I use myself to for motivation and time saving? It's not always possible for people to do this, but if there's something that you really don't like to do, for me, it would be like cleaning the bathroom or doing dishes. I do something I enjoy at the same time. I listen to podcasts so that I get the enjoyment out of, I'm stuck here doing this anyway, so why not make it enjoyable? And another one that people laugh at me for, but when I'm folding laundry, I fold it I segment it into the order of the drawers that they have to go in, so that everything that's in the top drawer is together, then the next drawer, then the next, and believe it or not, that saves some time. So these are just like the little things that I've kind of started doing, like the hanging on the door, that I find helpful, and maybe somebody else might too.
I like both of those.
Me too. And I have one more to add, which is be kind to yourself. Like if you don't get it all done, it'll still be there tomorrow. It's hard sometimes, but I think that's something that's really important to remember, not to be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Very true. Well, if there's nothing further that anybody wants to add to this discussion, it's been very interesting to hear how all of us manage our time and how we find little tips and tricks for ourselves. And thank you for sharing all of them here tonight. So with that, thank you to anybody who's watched this video. And we're here again in a week's time or so with a new topic to chat about. And we hope you'll join us then as well.
And if you have your own tips that you'd like to share, please put them in the comments below. Other people can benefit from them too. So
absolutely. Yes, thank you. All right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Be safe and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.